Today we're going to focus on how to use who and whom as relative pronouns in adjective clauses. Now you probably already know that we use who and whom as relative pronouns when the adjective clause is talking about a person or people. But a lot of students have questions about how to choose between who and whom. So that's what we're going to focus on today. When you are speaking, it is almost always okay to use who when you're making this choice. When we're speaking, at least in American English, we pretty much always use who. But sometimes we'll need to use whom, and especially in academic writing, a lot of people prefer to use whom. The basic rule is that we use who when the relative pronoun is the subject of the adjective clause, and we use whom when it is the relative pronoun is the object of the adjective clause. So we're going to look at a few examples, but first, if you need to review how to tell whether the relative pronoun is the subject or object of the adjective clause, go check out my video on that topic first, because it'll really help you to understand when to use who and whom. So here's our first example sentence. I emailed the students blank aced the test. Now our adjective clause here is a relative pronoun, aced the test, and we're going to choose who or whom. In this case, the relative pronoun is the subject of the adjective clause, so we need to use who. I emailed the students who aced the test. Now let's look at our second example. She texted the man blank she met yesterday. Our adjective clause here is blank she met yesterday. And in this case, our relative pronoun is the object of this clause. So we can use whom. As I said before, it's also okay, at least when you're speaking, to use who in this case, even though this is the object of the clause. And you'll also remember from your basics of adjective clauses that it's okay also to use no relative pronoun in this case. So we have three options for how to write or speak this sentence. She texted the man whom she met yesterday. She texted the man who she met yesterday. And she texted the man she met yesterday. Whom sounds a little bit more formal. Who sounds a little bit more casual if we're speaking. And so does no relative pronoun. It sounds very natural in both contexts, actually, in speaking or in writing. Now there are some situations where we need to use whom. So let's get a little bit more in depth into that. Our last example sentence is, he got a thank you note from the friend blank he gave a gift to. So in this case, our adjective clause is relative pronoun he gave a gift to, and the relative pronoun here is the object of the clause. So we know that we can use whom. In this case, we can also, when we're speaking, or in informal writing, we can use who, or we can use no relative pronoun. All of these are okay, just like in our last sentence. Now the place that this gets a little bit tricky is with this preposition to. There's an old grammar rule and writing rule that we say in English we don't want to end a sentence with a preposition, like to. So if you want to follow this rule, or if it's important to your teacher for you to follow this rule, I'll show you how to fix it. We'll remove these. And in order to get that to away from the end of the sentence, but keep the meaning and the grammar correct, we can delete to and move it to the beginning of the adjective clause, and then use whom. He got a thank you note from the friend to whom he gave a gift. We use to whom here in the place of the relative pronoun. In this case, we cannot use who, we cannot use no relative pronoun. We need to use to whom if we're putting this preposition like to or another preposition at the start of the adjective clause. So that's the basic situation where you would really need to use whom. It's also very common when you're using relative clauses, adjective clauses in your academic or formal writing.